This is Career Quest. My name is Jody Stevenson. I'm the Skills Training Manager at the Goodwill Career Center. And today we've got a really great opportunity to talk a little bit more about White Labs and what it takes to be successful and find employment there. I am speaking with Elizabeth Suttles. She is the HR coordinator at White Labs in Asheville. Elizabeth, thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So, White Labs is a really unique business. There are so many different departments and aspects to the job, and I really want to know a little bit more about the various departments that you guys have, maybe a little bit of the history of White Labs.
Okay. White Labs started with Chris and Lisa White.
Okay.
And they were college students and homebrewers, and they wanted a way to make pitchable liquid yeast so that they could brew something when they wanted to brew. Like if they wanted to brew a Kolsch, they could brew a Kolsch and not have to wait for the yeast to ferment, blah, blah, blah. So that they figured out a way, and that's how White Labs came to be.
That's how White Labs was born.
Yeah. And it's a great story. It's online at whitelabs.com. It's great.
Yeah.
But they were in college. They got started with a homebrew store, Ballast Point, and it grew from there. And so San Diego really grew. That's our corporate office. And then in 2017, they started White Labs here in Asheville because they wanted to have representation on the East Coast. So that's how we got started over here.
And you guys have a restaurant at the location here in Asheville too,
yes,
right?
We have a restaurant, and they've had a brewery in San Diego for 10 years. We're celebrating our 10-year anniversary in our with our brewery.
Yeah.
And we just built a brew house in Asheville, but we've had a restaurant since we started in Asheville, and San Diego just got their restaurant this year. So theirs isn't as big as ours, but the whole point of having the restaurant is to showcase what our yeast can do.
Right.
And when you order beers, you can look at the different kinds of yeast for like a Hefeweizen. There's two different styles. You can taste the difference in those two yeast strains. And it's really like a place for brewers or people who just love beer to hang out and just learn about. It's very science-based. So we like to showcase what we can do what our product is. And we cook with our yeast. Our pizza dough is made with the yeast. They are constantly coming up with new ways to.
Well, full disclosure, I've definitely been to the restaurant, and great food and great beer, and it's unique because like you mentioned, they on the menu talk about the yeasts that are being used.
Yes.
So it's a unique dining experience. So you've got jobs, obviously, on the manufacturing of the yeast side of things, but then if you just want employment with a restaurant, you've got opportunities there too, right?
Yes, we have server positions and back-of-house line cook positions, and that's pretty much, the restaurant. And we're open 7 days a week, and they do well. I mean, the restaurant, and we have parking. That's like a huge thing in Asheville. We have parking, and and we have great benefits too for full-time employees and part-time employees, and it's a really great place to work. And
well, I was going to ask, in your experience, why do people love working at White Labs?
I think it's because you can grow. It's a place you can grow.
Okay.
You can start out in production, and then, the more you're willing to learn, the more you can move up into different roles, or even find a role we could create, that we didn't realize we needed. And that's something with working for a science-based facility is you're constantly growing because you're constantly learning and making new things. And
That's awesome.
Constantly.
So as an HR representative of White Labs, you must see a lot of resumes, and you have so many different departments. But what are some things in maybe some of the different departments that stand out to you in resumes?
Resume, I just want them to be honest on it and just show me your work history. It doesn't have to be flashy, but sometimes the flashier ones do get noticed more. We like to, see some experience. And like for production, for instance, you really don't have to have experience. You just, have to be willing to work and
good, strong work
and
ethic,
learn.
right?
Yeah, and be able to, do the physical demands,
Right,
which
right.
aren't too awful.
Yeah.
And so basically just some kind of work experience.
Okay. Then is there do you follow up with an interview process?
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about what that looks like.
We screen through Indeed, and then we or the manager, whoever, I send them the resumes that I've screened, and then they will tell me which ones they want to be interviewed. I will call or email or text because in this day and age, people don't like to answer the phone, myself included. So I try those 3 different ways to contact them to set up an interview.
Okay. So last question, I really am curious, is there opportunities at the White Labs in Asheville currently, and how do people find you?
They can find us on Indeed or on whitelabs.com under careers, and it'll take you to Indeed. We do have currently a couple of production jobs available right now.
Wonderful.
And they're entry-level positions. You just have to be willing to learn and work and show up.
Oh, those are great things to hear. Thank you so much for talking with us today, Elizabeth, and appreciate you.
Thank you.
All right.